Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today, How Website Personalization Helps Snowflake's ABM team increase meetings by 49%, featuring Breanna Gaul of Snowflake and Guy Yalif of Intellimize. During the webinar, please feel free to ask any questions using the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. And now, without further ado, I turn it over to Bree to introduce herself. Bree?
Hi, thanks, Sesame. I'm Breanna Gaul, manager of ABM at Snowflake. Over the last 4 years, I've really been helping to build out the ABM structure and how we really functionally do ABM at Snowflake. Starting with those really strategic one-to-one campaigns, producing that at a huge scale, and then really how do we start utilizing tools like Intellimize to bring out the human element at a personalized scale. So really excited to be talking to you guys today, and I'll pass it off to Guy.
Thanks, Bree. Hi, everyone. My name's Guy Yalif. I'm co-founder and CEO of Intellimize. For the last several years, I've been putting AI in the hands of marketing and growth teams to help personalize website experiences for each unique visitor in the moment so they can drive more revenue, more customer signups, or more leads to sales in this case. I've also been a marketer and product guy, optimizing digital experiences across industries for the last 15 years, while at Twitter, Brightroll, and Yahoo. For me, that journey started years ago when I coded a rules-based expert system to design airplanes in college. We've had the privilege of working with Bree, Hillary, and the Snowflake team for some time now, and I'm really excited for everyone to benefit from their thought-leading ABM work today. Let me take 60 seconds and set context on what Intellimize does. Intellimize intelligently optimizes websites. We personalize them for each unique visitor. And we do that by working with Hillary, Bree, and others to come up with a bunch of ideas to cajole prospects to move through a funnel and become customers. In the example on the left, we have 4 headlines, 4 images, and 4 calls to action that the team has come up with based on intimately understanding their prospects and forming hypotheses on how to turn them into customers. Week by week, we'll brainstorm ideas together, code those ideas into variations for our customers, and then our machine learning tries every possible combination of those variations. In the example in the middle, the machine learning is optimizing across 4 times 4 times 4, or 64 possible versions of the page. And our system will then choose the right combination of variations for each unique visitor in the moment. That means that if Bree, Hillary, and I show up at snowflake.com right now, we might see 3 different things based on what's predicted to get each of us to start a free trial or any other goal Bree or Hillary might have for us as visitors. If Bree shows up again a week later, she might again see something different, either because she did something or because the machine learning, which is updating itself every few minutes, got better at predicting human behavior. Using this machine learning approach, our customers are able to massively accelerate their optimization and drive great results, which is exactly what Bree's going to walk us through right now. Bree, would you like to introduce everyone to Snowflake?
Yes, so Snowflake is a data cloud that enables organizations to easily unify and integrate and analyze their data. The data cloud really creates a network effect, so customers can leverage data from other organizations to make their business decisions better without needing to really copy and paste and maintain all of that data. The unique structure of Snowflake's data cloud allows the entire business to connect and collaborate overall with the data and quickly unlock new business value. So long story short, it's your data, and we make it easy for you to use it. So today we're really going to be talking about how we have really used Intellimize to help drive a 49% increase in meeting rate. A lot of that has to do with some really great internal functional alignment, but Intellimize is one of those center points that we use to align on. So, we're using Intellimize on the backbone of all of these cross-functional campaigns as a core piece to take them to the next level. Intellimize has really enabled us to focus on more strategic personalization and alignment. So not only allowing us to do the things that we didn't know were possible in one-to-one, but enabling us to really create a more tiered and dynamic approach to ABM using Intellimize in ABM at scale campaigns. So our before state, what did we look like in the dark ages? before Intellimize. We were running highly customized campaigns for 1,600 to 2,000 accounts. We continue to love the ability to really control the message and the beauty that goes into creating a human experience for these accounts. The scale that we were doing it at, though, did become laborious and difficult to manage branding for Snowflake. So we needed to bring something in that could help us keep that scale. We wanted something to free up our time for more strategic personalization that would lead to just a greater impact overall. In this before state, we had campaigns that looked functionally like this, where we had custom imagery, custom messaging, content is hand curated for these individual accounts, really trying to nail the human aspect of identifying what Comcast, as an example, wants to see when they are trying to learn more about Snowflake. And, like I said, at the scale of 1,600 accounts, it does become very manual to continuously update. So, we were unable to really focus on how to up-level these campaigns and how to take this personalization to a whole other level. And, we were so tied into the daily tasks of updating content, making sure that messaging is still relevant, that it took away from our ability to do things like aligning cross-functionally and working with other members of the team to provide more strategic value. After we started working with Intellimize, we've just been able to really find the balance between the human aspect and the technology that Intellimize can provide to enable that humanity at a larger scale. We don't want to remove or replace some of that human personalization that we're doing, but what we're able to do with Intellimize is create value that's so important for the human touch, and in a way that you just really can't do for a scale of 1,600 accounts, excuse me. Using technology to help take us to the next level not only helped us to achieve more personalized experiences, but it gave us the time to really move beyond what we were able to do a year ago and align with internal people that has created such an amazing impact. Utilizing tools in our ABM at scale approach to keep our personalization, but not sacrifice the culture of what ABM is. So in addition, we kind of, with Intellimize, we've been able to break out the targeting that we're doing. We have our traditional one-to-one ABM campaigns, and we have our one-to-many, or ABM at scale, as we like to call it internally. So the one-to-one campaigns are the custom campaigns that Intellimize is helping us to provide individual value towards. Messaging is determined by what sales is interested in the account seeing, and also some data points. We have been able to start really using Intellimize to free up some time of the individual contributor so that they can start aligning with the SDRs on what should be seen and how can we provide content on these pages that the SDR can align with and really provide that company-wide value that led to a 75% lift in meetings in those one-to-one accounts, which helped to support that overall 49%. Our one-to-many is really more focused on using Intellimize to scalably create a personalized experience. So how do we group accounts by data, but still give them an experience that is uniquely their own, systematically and easily. So it gives us the freedom to connect better with our SDR organization and enable what we call internally warm calling. Our SDRs are not ever really touching accounts that haven't been warmed up by an ABM campaign, whether it's an ABM at scale or ABM one-to-one. We try to utilize Intellimize to align our SDRs and these ABM pages on some core messaging that drives that home for the individual account we're targeting. So systematically, how do we actually, utilize some of this information? Starting with our goals, we really have 4 main goals in creating these ABM campaigns. So starting with engagement, obviously we want to increase engagement. How do we use tools like Intellimize and 6 Sense to do that? Next is relevancy. Relevancy to us is a little more than just personalization. It's how do we keep what the account is seeing on each of their individual ABM streams relevant to them. So what events are they seeing? What content are they seeing? Making sure that what they see day to day is really still impacting them. And feel free, by the way, to ask any questions in the Q&A. Happy to answer as we move along. So next from relevancy is really scalability. How do you take these relevant campaigns and scale them out into something larger, continuing that, not losing the quality of the campaign as we continue to scale. Finally, we have majors ready. At Snowflake, we have enterprise and major accounts. And so enterprise are those smaller accounts, major are those really big fish accounts like a Disney or a Comcast. And making these campaigns majors ready is giving the ABM contributor the flexibility and creative freedom to really create these insanely layered campaigns and using data to structure them and eliminate human error for the scale that we're really working at. So with those goals, we take our data sources like 6 Sense and Bombora, and we identify some key areas of differentiating accounts. What stage are they at in their sales cycle? What industry are they in? That kind of thing. What workload or intent use case are they showing interest in outside of Snowflake? And we use that to influence how Intellimize is functioning on our experiences. So we take that data and functionally add it to our campaigns by updating calls to action, updating copy on the page and content, and customer references that are available. How do we use it to create an individual's experience and edit our microsites to enable some more of that really nice conversion. So, we do things like where the prospect is in their sales cycle, we'll update calls to action to reflect what might impact them the most. So a customer is going to want to see something different from a prospect, from a very cold account, right? So how do we use Intellimize to systematically update some of those aspects of the page to reflect what they want to see? We're using this as a complement to our one-to-one structure, our human aspect to it of really handpicking what the messaging should be. We don't want to replace the functionality of some of the nice, really important aspects of our ABM campaigns, but we're using it in places where it's impossible to upkeep manually. And it just functions better when the experience is able to ebb and flow with the individual. Things like aligning with our larger marketing initiatives, as an example, and aligning with potentially a specific use case with the SDR org. Yeah. All right. So functionally, how do we actually do this on our microsites? We're going to get into the weeds a little bit for a minute here, getting into some of the details of how Intellimize is actually editing our microsites currently. We have a lot of cool things that we're doing, and a couple of cool ideas coming later on as well. The first big thing is our custom, CTA main event button. Right now, our baseline is Meet Your Expert. It's an introduction to the sales representative. It's backed by a Chili Piper link. So when the button is clicked, it pulls up the individual's calendar, the sales rep that's associated with that account. It pulls up their calendar for the prospect to put time there. What Intellimize is doing is updating that button to potentially showcase a different call to actions. So like I said before, customers know who their sales rep is, right? They've bet with them, they bought from them. There's no point in introducing that person to them. So that's where we would update and try to call out, join our community. Maybe we know that there's a particular workload for Comcast that they're not engaging with, a use case that they're not utilizing Snowflake for, that we know would be impactful. We can update that button to call out, a use case that they're not currently using and say, check this out. This should be interesting to you. Just to really continue to tailor things based on what we know about them and the data that we've gathered about them. Next, we have our main hero updates. These are primarily updated for our ABM at scale campaigns. We update imagery and title, taglines, copy for these accounts when they're coming in, and we're identifying them on page load to provide a more holistic experience, to really give them something that feels personal. And then we have our note from our sales rep. So this really calls out section of like, this is what you're seeing on the page. This is what you're going to be interacting with. And it gives them a nice little touch point of human interaction. So next we have, further down the page, we have our featured piece of content. This is updated by Intellimize, regularly dependent on the visitor. We are testing what content performs best up here. We're testing if the imagery is better via like aligning by their industry. And we're testing to see, is a video better up there? Is a customer use case better? Is the first thing they see. The other thing that we're doing is rotating modules to see what performs better higher up. So depending on the person, someone that has been looking at a lot of events recently, they would see events higher up. So that we're really trying to capitalize on the individual's unique experiences. We also are updating events that are available based on data we have about them. So what industry are they in? What workload have they shown interest in? That kind of thing. And it's proven to be very interesting to see how different events rotate through. Finally, well, it's not finally, second to last, we have our content library. This is where we are curating the mass of our content to live, all mostly handpicked by the individual ABM contributor based on what sales wants them to see. And then we use Intellimize to update this call to action midway down the page to align with some usually larger marketing initiatives. So business value calculators there now. Summit might show up for somebody different that is more likely to register for that event.
Bree, we've got one question from Chelsea. She asked, how many team members would it take to run something like this?
Yeah, so we have about 8 team members right now. We're looking to hire a few more because we're definitely at a point of wanting to really keep our team members providing the most value, and a tool like Intellimize has helped us to really get there. But yeah, so we have around 8 people. It would probably be better suited to have have a couple more, and that's why we're hiring.
And I'll add a little more. Bree, your team does an amazing job of doing one-to-one ABM, one-to-many ABM. It's a very effective program that is driving a ton of growth. To do some of these things, typically it's a fraction of a person. Not to do all of the ABM things Bree and team are doing, that you need a much larger team. The specific things we're talking about here, typically it's a fraction of a person who gets up every day and says, hey, I need to generate more leads. I need to generate more meetings booked. And I've got ideas on how to do that. I want to try some of these things. I'm going to create creative, come up with new ideas, and run that through to set additional context. Does that resonate, Bree?
Totally right. Yeah. We definitely utilize a lot of the different aspects of these pages to continuously try to find new ways of amplifying what we are able to show these accounts. And it takes a lot of creativity.
Bree, we've got another one if you're game. John asked, what are the primary drivers of traffic to these sites for you?
So we promote on a few different channels. We use Rollworks as our primary source of driving. And we create tailored advertisements for each of the accounts that we're targeting. So 1,600 unique campaigns in Rollworks across North America. We also use LinkedIn sponsored content, which is a really interesting tool to use because you can utilize not only what the person like thinks of like how they like to interact with their audience, but also how they're identifying themselves. So what are they experts in? How long have they worked at the company? It's a really cool way to get the right audience to visit these pages. And then we're onboarding a tool called OpenSense to update email signatures based on who the sales rep is emailing. So when they email Comcast, their email signature will be a call to action for this page for Comcast. But when they email, Disney, it'll be entirely different. Yeah, those are the three main ways that we get traffic to these sites. Yeah.
Super. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just jump back in. So next we have a customer quote, and we find this pretty impactful to call out, specific use cases for people like the individual visiting. Intellimize is updating this based on the industry currently, but we do have base site customers to just A/B test, what performs best. And then our final CTA, the final journey, calling back to whatever is in the hero nav bar. So for customers, it'll look a little different than for prospects. And the whole goal of really each aspect being so customizable is that we want to give the ABM contributor the ability to make these as unique as they possibly can while still providing a framework for functionality. So, Intellimize can fire on top of any of these aspects, and we can control what parts we want to keep super manually human and really control the message of. And then we can also decide where does Intellimize fit to truly optimize. So our full funnel ABM strategy, what goes into this, what our tech stack is. So we have a few different tiers here, our groups here. But what I would say for Intellimize is they fit really well into our engage and convert sections. Intellimize is helping us to get accounts to take the right step. We've identified what to us means they're progressing through our sales funnel and our ABM funnel. And so they're taking steps and taking action to engage those people and then convert them based on our optimizing and tracking goals. So getting them to pushing the prospects through their journey to get them where we need them to be.
Bree, we've got a question from Ronnie. How are you getting sales teams aligned with these ABM tactics? You mentioned, for example, the personalized signatures. How do you drive that alignment? Yeah,
so sales alignment has been one of our key aspects for our entire ABM campaign throughout my time at Snowflake. It's very sales driven. We put a lot of ownership on the sales org. Getting some key leadership alignment was really helpful in identifying what matters to sales and tying it back to their bottom dollar. So, I would meet regularly with a few key buy-in direct managers and proving value to them and getting, those key spokespeople within the sales org to then branch it out to make it really part of their day-to-day activity. So now we're at the point where every large account at Snowflake has ABM running for it, and every sales rep has at least 5 to 10 campaigns running individually for their accounts. We try to partner with what matters to them and provide value through some of the data sources that we have. And it's really been about focusing on the strategic alignment of what matters to them and how can we help them get there. So I start every meeting with sales asking about what their quarterly goals are and what their yearly goals are, and figuring out how can I use what's available to me to get them where they need to be.
Sounds like meaningful strategic alignment. And I got to imagine something that helps make that happen a lot is getting more of what they want. I think that's what you've got teed up next.
Yeah, totally. And that's definitely what they're seeing with working with Intellimize. We have seen a 60% lift in conversions on our microsites. So this means 60% more people are taking actions that we want them to take on these microsites to move those prospects, you know. And a huge part of this is the CSM team. Erica has been great at bringing ideas to the table. You know, she was the one to really identify to us that a lot of our visitors are mobile, which we hadn't really noticed before. And she brought some great ideas on how we can improve the mobile experience of our microsites to really drive this lift. Because it was definitely something we weren't totally aware of until we started seeing the data from Intellimize that these mobile visitors were driving the majority of our engagement. And, you know, how do we improve their experiences? The next part, the big part, 49% lift in meetings. So this is definitely largely due to some insane internal cross-functional alignment with the SDR org, the sales team, and the demand gen and field marketing teams. You know, this alignment has Intellimize has allowed us to be able to do that alignment because they've taken some of the testing out of our hands and we've been able to focus more on how do we align internally, and then using Intellimize after the fact as a main point of connection. So, you know, identifying a particular workload in the Northeast that makes a lot of sense to really include in all of our ABM campaigns. We can do that easily with Intellimize. We can add that to all of our microsites in the drop of a hat, you know, with Intellimize. Whereas before it was a very manual process of updating each microsite, because the individual human experience is still important, but being able to do some of those quick alignment updates really has driven this lift, has been a part in driving this lift. Yeah, okay, so ideas for how we're personalizing in the future, things that we're currently doing and testing out. I mentioned before we have the sales rep introduction section. That is, we're using the Intellimize to basically showcase it in different ways, popping it out in an iframe or a light box, excuse me, updating calls to action in this section to try to increase engagement. And we really believe highlighting this personal aspect from the sales rep and updating the button that, you know, the CTAs in this section will get us more meetings and will increase that meeting rate even further. We're also personalizing event promotions on the page by industry. So right now we're promoting our summit, but in the past we've promoted, you know, we promoted a previous summit utilizing industry messaging. So really focusing on why would Comcast want to attend and why is that different than why Pfizer would want to attend? And really showing that on these pages. Intellimize makes it very easy for us to identify and push that out. And our theory is that if these event calls to action are very personalized to the individual in the industry, we'll really get some of those conversions up, get more registrants to these kinds of events. And our third idea that we're really testing out right now is updating the testimonials, so the customer testimonials. We update these based on industry. I kind of alluded to this before. We're updating them based on what we think is most relevant for the industry. So we can really test, you know, is a workload, is aligning to a specific workload for the customers more impactful, or is it more important for them to see people exactly like them in their customer testimonial section? So allowing us to really also maintain some of that relevancy because it's easier to update at scale across all of our, you know, manufacturing. When we have a new manufacturing client, we can easily push a manufacturing use case customer testimonial across our prospects pages. All right, so down to critical learnings. This is really just an area for us to call out how great Intellimize is to work with. It's really the customer success team is great to work with, very organized. I mean, it's been a dream bringing ideas to us, helping meet us where we need to be and get things done that we have dreamed of doing. That's definitely pushing the boundaries a little bit. And every other vendor that we work with, we're definitely bringing Intellimize's customer success framework and saying, this is the dream, please try. And they're really helping us to amplify our own work. So when I'm working with the sales on internally, I'm always saying to them that ABM is amplifying what you're emailing these prospects. They're seeing advertisements with the same messaging as the email that you're sending them every week, right? So we're able to amplify even further with Intellimize by giving us some tools to really test and fluctuate to the individual.
And Bree, we've similarly enjoyed your and Hillary and the team's amazing partnership, right? This, to your point about amplification, amplifies the prospect insight that you have, the creativity that you have, right? You're regularly coming up with more ideas to move those prospects through the funnel to go feed your hungry, rapidly growing sales team all the time. And that makes this partnership work so very well, because then we'll use ML to go maximize the lift out of those ideas, right? Amplifying the winners, showing them more often, protecting you from the losers, starving them of traffic. And that sort of, marriage of like human empathy and creativity together with machine learning and a close partnership yields things like this. And so thank you for the partnership.
Yeah, thank you. Totally. The marriage of the human touch and the technologies is something that Intellimize is great at towing the line of. And that is it. So if there's any other questions.
We do have a few. Where, Bree, are the ideas coming from to test? And like, how often do you need to make this work well?
So sorry, what was the end of that question? I didn't catch it.
Sure thing. Where are the ideas coming from that you're testing? And then how many and how often do you need to come up with new ones to make an effort like this work effectively?
Yeah. So it was the perfect timing. When we were bringing Intellimize on board, we were also updating our entire ABM template. So the microsite template that we use. And so the entire page was built in mind with Intellimize firing on top of it. And how can we utilize Intellimize to functionally update different aspects and really create a more tailored experience, right? So a lot of the ideas were originally baked into the creation of the template, and they were a long time coming because we were, it takes a while to build a template, takes a while to onboard a vendor through security and IT. So a lot of ideas we have had backfill, just waiting to launch them when we could. The other great thing, like I said before, the CSM, Erica at Intellimize and CSM org, I think, they have a lot of great best practices and ideas that they bring to you to it as well to get things started. We had a lot of big dreams of, utilizing 6sense data to, make crazy alterations to our pages. And while we were waiting for all of those dots to connect, we had a lot more fun with little things like updating buttons and updating the colors of CTAs and stuff like that. And that really came from just walking through the template that we have, the microsite that we have with Erica, and just talking about what could be better, what is functioning great, what could be something to really test. And that's where we got the majority of our starter ideas from.
That's super, right? Marry your deep understanding of prospects with walking through the experience in detail, thinking through what's on their mind in that moment at that stage, and bringing to bear best practices.
Yeah, and we also gave sales a hand in it as well. I should have mentioned before, where we definitely brought to them and said, you know, what do you see from your side? So it gets even, because it's one of the things that we try to do is get sales buy-in at every step. The more that they're involved in some of the decisions, you know, leadership, not every single salesperson, but the more that like we can get buy-in, the more impactful it is and the more interested they are in continuing. And so bringing these things to them and saying, you know, like, what would you want to see? I've had a few different updates from reps where they're like, can we update, you know, this button to say, ask a question instead of meet your expert? You know, can we try different verbiage in this area? So getting some buy-in from really key value drivers and champions on the sales org has definitely been another place where we've gotten some cool ideas from.
Super. That prospect understanding and insight can come from anywhere. You mentioned activating that with data from others. Question from Edward: using Intellimize with 6 Sense, is that a direct connection or an API between the platforms or some other setup?
So 6 Sense pushes data into the data layer of the microsite. And then through that, Intellimize is able to fire off of those data points. So there's 3 blocks of data that 6 Sense is pushing into the data layer. The first is just firmographic, like company name, company size, location. Second is the 6 Sense segments. So what lists are we putting them into that we want to be able to use in Intellimize and just reporting aspects. And then the third is the 6 Sense buying stage, which is something native to their platform. So what, from the data perspective, are they most likely to do? Are they cold prospect or are they in the purchase decision, stage?
Super. And then from that data layer, you can go use that data for any level of personalization with Intellimize. Fair?
Yes. Yeah. That's basically just we're looking for the data point and then we can do anything off of that.
Super. Another question. Our ABM efforts are smaller scale. We don't have thousands of target accounts. Should I take a different approach with personalization?
No, I mean, I think it really is quality over quantity. We've had massive sales buy-in and we've had massive interest and we've been able to grow our team that we've gotten to this point. But when we started out, I was the first ABM hire and we still had a few, but we were really focusing on one region and we were really focusing on nailing down where we fit in with the sales journey and the marketing world and how do we, like, where are we most impactful, and then building out from there. So I wouldn't say that, working with a smaller number of accounts is incorrect. I would say it's definitely the best place to start. Whether you move into tiering out ABM or continuing just one-to-one is really based off of what kind of tools you have available to you.
Makes a lot of sense. And being able to do, to your point, the sort of one-to-one, one-to-many scale, like all at the same time, it's all spectrum. And to be able to activate that at scale is great. We talked about a smaller customer base. You also talked earlier about sort of smaller ideas, testing a lot of little things. Were there some like learnings from that?
Yeah, totally. We did like on our original older template, we had 3 sticky buttons that were like a demo, calling out a demo, calling out just signing up for Snowflake self-service. And then one other thing that I can't remember because it was a while ago, but we were just updating buttons, like the color of those buttons and the text. And we totally saw that, I think it was purple that performed best, which was really funny because I really didn't think that would be the color that would gather the most attention. And then we saw that I think the demo was really that we had some updated text for how to get people to engage with the demo and our Snowflake demo, and that was interesting to see. Just little things like that you don't really think might not have any impact at all, and then all of a sudden we got a huge increase in clicks because people like the color purple, or our visitors do at least.
Super. And it's so interesting that like there's not a global rule, right? It's not that everyone should be purple. It is situation specific.
Yeah.
Question from Patrick. How's marketing organized? Like the teams, is it multidisciplinary teams, by proposition, by account, or more traditionally by marketing function or specialty?
So our marketing org as a whole, we have more specialty, but the ABM team is one aspect of the demand gen org. So we have a field marketing team, and we have a really great demand gen organization that enables us to be able to do what we do at this scale and the personalization that we do, because they have just got the traditional demand gen down pat. The SDR org is also part of the marketing org now. So that alignment has been really great to have in our back pocket of, reporting to the same kind of metrics. So, but on the ABM team, we work regionally. So I was overseeing in the past the whole Majors East org. So we're working to align with the sales team's leadership rather than, a specific industry or anything like that.
Another question, this one from Chelsea. I think you talked a little bit about this before with all the campaigns, but are your ads personalized by org to drive to these pages?
Yeah, our ads are personalized by company, and we hand curate the messaging on those ads. So we have some creative support to help us with that, but it's really templates that have been built out by our external design team. And we just pop in a company name, and we update the imagery, and we update the messaging. And that's the bulk of how we personalize via advertisements. But yes, they're each individual to the account.
Makes sense on the ads. And then a question from John, how do you quality control that you're showing the right company to the right page, or the right page to the right company?
Yeah. So, we trust our ad platforms. We've done a lot of vetting with Rollworks and LinkedIn to trust that when we select, we want Comcast to see a specific advertisement, that they are doing the correct data searching to show Comcast and only Comcast that advertisement. So correctly vetting a vendor and trusting that they're going to be doing what they say they're doing. But we haven't had any issues really where we're having people see pages that they shouldn't, because we are responsible for launching individual campaigns. So we have, one campaign just for Comcast, and then entirely separate campaign for Disney. So it's pretty easy to go in and check and just ensure. It is a very large scale, but because the ABM contributors each own a region, they're responsible for maintaining that, quality.
Super, makes sense. One last one from Betsy. Sounds like you're doing your ABM by account and for the individual. Have you ever tried doing ABM by persona?
So yes, we're getting into more programmatic persona based. It's harder. We tend to stick to account to try and really give the account a holistic view of their experience, because at Snowflake, we believe in selling to accounts rather than an individual. So there's definitely a fine balance of warming people up by showing them what matters to them, and then tying it into a whole account and saying, this is what the business value for Comcast will be across your organization. So the business values positive business outcomes that will come out of, becoming a customer of Snowflake for multiple different orgs, to give them a holistic view of how it will impact their business entirely. So we've been using a persona-based approach that you do just persona-based for earlier down in the funnel, when we're trying to just garner interest from data scientists, which is one of our target audiences. So yeah.
Bree, thank you. Thank you for sharing all of these insights, for talking about sort of practical brass tacks. How do you bring this to life, and how do you make it effective across an organization? We really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. We hope you found this discussion useful. And if you'd like to continue the conversation, please follow up with us afterwards. We hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks, Bree. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, everyone.